Hey everybody, it's Rob here. We got the full patch notes for Diablo 4 Season 9. And these recent season news has the Diablo 4 community really split. While there are like a lot of things that make me personally and many people also excited for the season, if we're looking at, for example, like the Hydra Sork here and some of the cool stuff with generators and basic skills, I do share a lot of the negative feedback. And I also want to use this video here to quickly talk about my problems and a lot of the problems that I've raised during the live stream already. So by far, guys, the most issue I see that people have is about the nerfs that they are doing to all the classes and basically introducing more caps to all the key passive. Basically, if you're looking at the tier list here, every S tier build, without exception, got nuked. They nuked Overpower, 80% nerf. They nuked Lightning Spear. They nuked Death Trap. They nuked Cataclysm. They nuked the Earthquake Barb. Like everything that is in S tier here got a very, very hefty nerf. And many of these have to do with caps, and more caps in Diablo 4. So you have, for example, this crazy combustion passives and other passives like Noxious Resonance giving you up to 10,000% multiplicative damage in the game right now. And they kept most of these to 75x. Well, they 75% X. So that's basically 0.75 more damage, 75% more damage increase. And that basically puts the builds like tremendously down. And then combine this with the target nerfs and the overpower nerfs. And the meta builds are really shaking up a lot. And shaking up the meta is good, but I feel like we did not get enough buffs to compensate for this barrage of nerfs. So there's like so much stuff that got like double, triple, like they basically got nerfed from overpower and they got nerfed individually and they got nerfed from the key passive. So they like triple nerfed a lot of these builds. And I'm not quite sure if some of them even survive long term or even gonna be like, you know, like a A tier viable or something. Like they might end up down to like B or C tier. And many people say like, yeah, we are not really reaching pit 150 anywhere close. And wouldn't it be cooler to like, instead of nerfing top builds, like bring other builds up to this level of the top builds? And yeah, I could understand like both of the arguments, I feel. I'm just like, obviously it never feels good to nerf stuff, but some of the stuff like Lightning Spear was clearly flying a bit too high. But overall, I feel there is still a problem, especially with Druid and Spiritborns. I don't think there's going to be like too much crazy exciting stuff for those classes. And I still think they are lacking behind a little bit here. But what I want to remind you guys is that this is PTR feedback viable, right? Like they want us to play the PTR. It starts here next Tuesday. We can play it and we can definitely give a lot of feedback, especially on all these class balance. And we need to do a lot of testing as well, because some of the stuff, even though it's written in the patch notes, is not like 100% clear. And then I also see like a lot of people really having a problem with the boss powers. And from my perspective, I see the season theme not necessary as the boss power alone. Like there's so much more to the season theme. While I do agree that it's like, you know, a little bit boring to just get season powers every season, I still feel people have and people would complain even if they didn't make any of the season powers, right? So people complain if they make season powers, and then people complain if they don't make season powers because there's no power creep in the season. I actually think like the season power system can have quite some depth to it. I actually like the system, and this new system looks super cool, probably the best one yet. And I really hope they keep cooking on this, but also obviously like add more stuff, like, you know, rework the Endgame and these kind of things. And I think that's really the problem. It's not the problem that every season has a power theme. Like just see this as a bonus. And then we need to get like some real content changes to the existing systems, make them better, or add new Endgame systems. That's always how I feel. What I feel, however, is a big problem is that it seems like there's so much time spent on these amazing boss powers. I really like the boss powers for season 8, but the problem is they never really like implement them as a part of the game. Like all these cool, visually amazing effects, like they get developed for like 2 or 3 months of the game, and then most of the time they disappear, right? There's been many examples of this. There's also been some examples where they implemented it in like a less impactful way. But I just feel like there's like a lot of development time that gets spent on these cool powers that then not really like make it as part of the core game, right? So maybe there's something to be done about this. But overall, I don't think the powers itself are a problem as long as there's enough content on top of this. But that definitely is not always the case. And with that, we can move to some of the other points here. Like one more here is, it's still possible to snapshot. Like players do not like snapshotting. This is specifically plaguing the Cataclysm Druid. And the developer said it's actually intended to have the snapshot gameplay on the Druid. And I think this is not a positive or not encouraging players to give the Druid a try if the only viable build is Cataclysm and this build is revolving around snapshotting. So what they did is they kept snapshotting in the game and they removed some power from the best Druid build. And I also feel like they didn't really compensate enough for this. It's just a terrible gameplay having to snapshot every cast. It doesn't really make sense. And I wish that they would fix the snapshots on Druid and then look at the class and really balance it, based on no snapshots. That would be my wish here. And that's also going to be some of the feedback that I'm going to give with this video, but also after the PTR, when we actually had a chance of, playing it. And then this was very negative for me during the live stream. Like, I play Barb a lot, like Barbarian is like my favorite class. And one of the things that happens not only on the Barb, but on all the classes with also these key passive caps. Like, they cap everything. They like to put a cap on movement speed. They like to put a cap on cooldown. They like to put a cap on the stash space. There's a cap on the materials. Now there's a cap on all the key passives. There's a cap on the multipliers. And I am not a big fan of caps. Now they also have caps on all the key passives. I think it's just, in Diablo 3, it was so much cooler. You could stack as much movement speed as you want. You could stack as much cooldown as you want. Like, I'm just not a fan of caps. I don't think it's going to be promoting player choice, and I think it's extremely boring to have more caps. And what they're doing now, on top of introducing more caps, they are dumping down, like, make it like stupid easy to understand, like on the Paragon nodes. One good example is on the Barb. You have here now all of the cool stuff here. Let's say Blood Rage. This is like a legendary Paragon node, right? In the game, and this is happening on other classes as well. In the game, you have Blood Rage. And in order to, you have this like cool little mini game, you can min-max your character by stacking berserking damage. So you have to stack 450 berserking damage here to get the bonus, right? Or you have to stack like some close damage to get the multiplicative bonus and stuff. And they completely removed all of these stacking mechanics. Now, you just take Blood Rage and you get 45x. Now you just take the Force of Nature and you get 45x. I think this is extremely boring, and it was kind of like a cool little mini game of trying to min-max your character around having like one part damage while berserking, then another part like damage while close, and you could really like min-max and customize your character with all these different goals, targets to hit, and they just completely dump it down. Like, obviously, I like the game is also very good for beginning players, and making it simpler is not necessarily a bad thing, but it is already so simple, and now they dump it down even more, where you don't really have any more scaling in the end game, right? You can choose Blood Rage, like when you hit Paragon 50, you can take Blood Rage, and then you never have to worry about it ever again. While right now, if you're hitting level 50, you take Blood Rage, maybe you get a 10% damage bonus. And then with your gear, with improving your character, gradually scaling it, you get stronger and stronger with this Blood Rage, and your multipliers scale with you. And I think it's not great for the game to cap this and also like dump it down where you don't have to meet any breakpoints, you don't have to have any goals, you just click it like an idiot, and then you get the multiplier, and that's it. I don't like this, and I just don't see the argument of doing this. Even for a casual player, it's not really so hard to understand that they have to dump it down. And obviously, like, while they're dumping this down, they're making it also actively worse in many cases. Look at Decimator here, for example. It used to give you 20% more damage when you're hitting a vulnerable enemy, and it used to give you another 20% damage when you're overpowering a vulnerable enemy. Now it just gives you 20 damage, and then 20 damage to your overpowers. It's like a lot of these things, man. Like it just doesn't make sense, and that's the same stuff that's happening on all the classes, right? If we're looking at the, I think it's a Spiritborn Resonance Noxious. Noxious Resonance. Where is it here? Like this also used to be like a scalar with your crit damage, and now it's just a flat multiplier and stuff. And there's basically like no development for your character anymore, right? Like you just like click this passive once and you forget about it. I really liked how you can like min-max this on all the classes. I mean, the same is on Combustion, right? Maybe we don't need a 10,000% X, but they could like always adjust the scaling. So you have a capped multiplier by the amount of burning damage you can stack by default. Like just change the scaling so you have a theoretical cap of, I don't know, 200% or whatever you want, but you only get this 200% if you have perfect burning damage everywhere, right? And then the average player maybe gets like 100% X, but you still have character development and ways to like, you know, min-max your character and get more DPS. Again, this is an issue for all the classes. I think the game just gets dumped down more and more and more, and I don't like it. The next thing here is, firstly, a positive thing. I really like that they are like, you know, finally making the basic skills more viable. Like on the Barb, for example, you're getting the amazing boots as well that buff your basic skills. You're getting Lunging Strike, Bash. We can maybe make a Frenzy Barb. I've already been cooking here. I'm going to put these below. We've already been cooking like a Lunging Strike, and we've been cooking like a Frenzy Barb. And it's really cool to see, you know, these basic skills be more viable. Also on all the classes, like hopefully on Druid, there's going to be some basic skill builds as well. So that's really cool. But I still feel this leaves the core skill builds even more behind. Even if you go in-game, like you're reading this, and I've been giving this feedback for like 1 year on the Barb. Core skills spend resources to deliver powerful attacks. Like the core skill, it has it in the name. This is supposed to be like, you know, what your builds are basically evolving around, like, you know. But all the core skills builds are just like very bad, and most of them are basically just support skills that like buff other builds, like you see here. Hammer of the Ancients is just used for getting 40% damage. Whirlwind is just used to trigger stuff or to apply bleed here in this current build. Rend is not in the... And this is a problem on all the classes as well. Like core skills just feel weak already, and we keep getting like a 10% buff to them. Like we need like a double or a triple X what they did with basic skills. That's what we need for core skills too. And obviously this basic skill buff is great, but it just leaves the core skills even more behind. And you can't really make any real builds revolving on any core skills. Like you see here, okay, I think the only exception is Bloodspear here. That is a core skill in S tier. And all the other stuff is just not core skill. It's like mainly ultimates, and then now it's going to be basic skills. I think the build variety goes down because most of the core skills were also like Hoda, Upheaval, or Pulverize, or other stuff on other classes. Like they were relying on Overpower, and Overpower got nerfed, and core skills didn't get any compensation. Even though they were already weak, even with Overpower. You know, Upheaval Barb was weak, even with Overpower. And now, basically, Upheaval gets a nerf because it's collateral damage from the Overpower nerf. But it didn't get any compensation, you know, for all these skills. Like, direct Whirlwind, direct Hoda. Like, Hoda got a 10% buff. But, like, you know, you're getting an 80% Overpower nerf. And then you're getting a teeny tiny 10% damage buff. Like, it's just not gonna... It's just not gonna do it, you know? And just core skills just are not what they are described. Core skills are support skills in Diablo 4 for most classes, especially for the Barb. And then one more point here, guys, that I completely understand, and many people say this in my YouTube comments, especially here, and they say Diablo 4 has no endgame challenge. And I must say I agree. Like, I made many feedback videos about this. I was actually very excited for the dungeon escalation system, but it just looks like, and obviously we will see on the PTR, but from what I've heard, I'm like 95% sure that the Nightmare Dungeons are just going to be Torment 4 content, just the way they are now. Obviously, they're going to be a bit more rewarding and a bit more exciting, but it's just going to be Torment 4 easy peasy content that we're going to outscale, you know, like after, for me, it's going to be a day. For more people, it might be like a few days in the season. Like, you're going to have a Torment 4 character, and you're going to outscale all this content, and it's not going to really be a challenge, it's just going to be another T4 stuff, and it doesn't really have like a rewarding, like high level, high challenge system. And this is a similar problem in the pits. Like in the pits, you actually have hard content, and they actually made the pits scale much harder, but they completely forgot about the rewards. So high pits does not give you equipment, high pits does not give you more obols, high pits does not give you any more XP per hour. Like hard content, there's no leaderboards yet, hard content is just not rewarding at all. And the most efficient way, the best way to like play the game if you want to progress and make your character stronger is just to do content that is completely no challenge to you. We've been playing like Pit 69, like any like low pit is way more efficient to run than any of the challenging pit. And to challenge yourself, there's no reason. You don't get anything. You don't get any ancestrals. You don't get any more obols. You don't get any more XP. It's just a bad concept, and that's why people don't really like the pit, because there's no incentive to even do high pits at the moment. And that's obviously a big problem to me. Still, that's not addressed. And then one more thing here. I don't understand, like they said this at the end of the campfire chat, why they cannot keep updating Season 8 while they're working on Season 9. So I actually like the concept where they do like a mid-season patch and bring some buffs to some of the dead classes, right? For example, right now in the live game, it would be amazing, because everybody knows that Spiritborn is kind of bad, right? Spiritborn and also the Druid out of Cataclysm. Like, why would it be so hard to like just buff the Spiritborn in the live season already? Like you can make some, you don't have to change the mechanics, like just do some number buffs for the Spiritborn and also for the Druid players, for everything that's not Cataclysm. I just feel like those classes are so behind, and they kept saying in the campfire chat that they have no plans on updating anything in Season 8. They are like all ships aboard Season 9. I like that they're on Season 9, but I thought they have like multiple development teams, where one team is like handling the live service game and making like patches to the live service, and another team is like working on the next season, So I really don't understand like why they stopped doing this. I really liked what they did in Season 2. You remember Season 2, man? We had like the launch, a new game, everything was cool. Season 2, we had the vampiric powers, we had Duriel and all that stuff. And then in the middle of the season, they did balance changes. They brought in the Abattoir of Zir, complete new endgame system, complete new scaling, and all the stuff. And even in Season 3, mid-season, they made the Gauntlet, they made class balance updates. I really liked that, like the Gauntlet wasn't the greatest system, but at least they tried to experience with new content and doing this in a season that is already going on. So we have to wait all the way until Season 9 before they fix class balance, and before they fix master working and tampering, we might even have to wait longer. So I really don't understand like why it's so difficult to just push a quick update to the master working materials and to the tampering stuff and to some of the class balance, like during the live season in an end game. Like, I thought there's like multiple teams for this, and they sure have enough people to do this. But maybe there's like some other reason, like we don't know for sure, we can only speculate. But I just like, so many people ask me like, why would I play Season 8 now, right? And I don't really have an answer to them, because there's nothing going on in Season 8. Season 8 is basically kind of dead, especially now that we have Season 9, and there's no news, no updates to Season 8. If you are like a Spiritborn enjoyer, or a Druid enjoyer, like you're just screwed into snapshotting, or on Spiritborn, you can't even really do like that challenging content easy. And there's not really anything I can like even tell you guys, like my audience, because there's not really a big reason to play Season 8, like right now, because there's obviously some problems with the game. But that's just, we already talked about the boss powers being gone and being deleted. That's not so cool. But anyways, guys, like there is a lot of positive things that I'm very excited. I don't really like to make these negative videos, but I got so many comments from you guys, and also on the stream. But I highly encourage everybody to give feedback. Go on the PTR, test the things, especially the class balance. And Blizzard also said they need more feedback on the loot filters and on all this kinds of stuff. Like there's already been a lot of feedback, and I really hope they implement some of this and they can listen, so we can get like a loot filter, and we can and many of the other problems that I've mentioned here. And we can give more feedback and go on the PTR, test these things, so we can have a great Season 9. Because this is exactly what the PTR is for, right? We go on, we test some stuff, and hopefully we're going to get a cool season. So that's just my few points here. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I'm gonna have some cool stuff like for Hydra builds, for the Barbarian builds. I'm very much looking forward to test the Flay, to test the Lunging Strike Barb. Like, they really like shaked up the meta, and I like that. But I felt more like maybe bring other builds up and not nerf, you know, like all the top builds. But we'll see. My 2 cents, guys. Let me know what you think below, and I'll see you soon. GG. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a like or a comment. I'm also live on Twitch almost every day, so come and say hi.